Hey everyone. Welcome back to Hoa Karen Stories. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're all doing great and ready for another wild ride through the world of Hoa drama. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you love these intense stories. And of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. It all started one crisp, sunny afternoon in the peaceful neighborhood of Crestwood Estates. Karen, the Hoa president, stood at the entrance of the community with a clipboard in hand, meticulously noting the height of every tree, and the colors of every flower in sight. With a stern expression, she scribbled down her thoughts, looking at the neighborhood with a sense of authority that few dared to challenge. Karen had recently decided that the beauty of Crestwood Estates depended on strict standards that she would impose herself. No one had asked for these regulations, but they were coming nonetheless. Too tall. Too bright? That's not acceptable, she muttered, writing down the names of the homeowners she planned to fine. Her idea of perfect was a uniform landscape with muted colors, an absence of vibrant hues that she deemed unseemly. At her first Hoa meeting, Karen announced the new rules. From now on, all trees must not exceed 6 feet in height, and flowers must stick to shades of white, cream, and pastel pink. Anyone found violating these new guidelines will face a fine. I don't remember voting on this, said Jake, a longtime resident, frowning as he stood up from his seat. This is for the greater good of our community, Karen snapped, her voice icy. If you don't like it, you know where the door is. The room fell silent. But Jake, along with several others, exchanged glances. This wasn't just about trees or flowers, it was about control. And Karen was about to find out that some battles were worth fighting. The very next week, the first round of fines began to roll in. Residents of Crestwood Estates were taken aback when they received official-looking envelopes, stamped with the HOA's seal. Inside, each letter contained a fine for violating new standards regarding tree height and flower colors. No warning had been issued. No discussion had been held, just sudden, unexpected penalties. Look at this. Sarah, a single mother and longtime resident, gasped as she tore open the envelope. The letter stated that her tulips, which she had lovingly nurtured in vibrant shades of red and orange, violated the HOA's newly imposed rules. A fine of $150 was attached, with a stern reminder that future violations could lead to even higher penalties. This is insane. I've been living here for 10 years. And now this woman is telling me what flowers I can plant. Sarah stormed to her neighbor's house, knocking on the door furiously. Karen is out of control. Have you seen this? I got fined for my flowers, she exclaimed to Martha, who opened the door with a furrowed brow. I got one too, Martha replied, holding up her own envelope, her voice rising in frustration. My rose bushes are too tall. Can you believe that? I've been taking care of them for over 15 years. The phone rang. And it was Mike, another neighbor. I got a fine for my oak tree being 2 feet too tall. 2 feet? Who does that? Karen, Sarah said with a disgusted laugh. She's running this place like a dictatorship. What are we supposed to do about it? I don't know, Martha muttered. But I'm not paying it. I haven't done anything wrong. As the phone calls continued, the anger and disbelief were palpable. No one had been informed about these sudden restrictions. Karen had taken it upon herself to impose them without any input from the community. People were starting to feel like their rights were being stripped away. And the tension in Crestwood Estates was building. One fine at a time, the residents of Crestwood Estates had had enough. What began as whispers of discontent over Karen's heavy-handed rules had now become an uproar. People were fed up with being told what they could and couldn't do with their own property. No one had asked for these arbitrary regulations. And they were not going to let Karen's personal preferences dictate their lives. Sarah, Martha, and a few other residents took action. They organized a community meeting at the local park, hoping to gather everyone together to confront Karen. Word quickly spread. And by the time the meeting began, there was a crowd of frustrated homeowners waiting to voice their complaints. As Karen stepped up to the podium, she gave them all a cold, disapproving stare. "I trust everyone knows why we're here," she said with a smirk. "The community standards have been violated. And I'm just doing my job." "Your job?" Jake stood up, his face flushed with anger. "You've overstepped. No one voted for these rules, Karen. No one agreed to them. You can't just impose your personal preferences on us like this." "Yeah," Sarah shouted from the back. "I've lived here for years. And now you're telling me I can't plant the flowers I want. It's my property. My land." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding, others raising their voices in frustration. "You're not even listening to us?" Martha added, her voice shaking with emotion. "We want fair rules, Karen, not your personal agenda. We want something we can all agree on. Not just what you think is right." Karen's eyes narrowed. "I'm the Hoa president," she said, her voice icy. "I'm just doing what's best for the neighborhood." "No," Jake retorted, stepping forward. "What's best for the neighborhood is that we all have a say. Not just you. You can't make decisions alone like this. You're not a dictator." At that, the crowd erupted in cheers and claps. The people of Crestwood Estates weren't going to be bullied any longer. They demanded fairness, transparency, and respect for their rights as homeowners. "Karen," Sarah said, her voice steady now, "we're not going to let this go. Either you listen to us and stop these ridiculous fines, or we'll fight back. We'll take legal action. We'll get the press involved. We won't back down." Karen stood frozen, her gaze flicking between the passionate crowd. She had expected resistance, but the sheer force of the community's unity took her by surprise. For the first time, Karen wasn't in control. As the residents continued to voice their anger and demand fairness, Karen's patience began to wear thin. She had expected some pushback, but this was unlike anything she had imagined. The community's unity in opposing her rules had thrown her off guard. And now, in an attempt to regain control, she resorted to the ultimate measure, calling the police. Late one afternoon, the sound of sirens broke the calm of Crestwood Estates. A few moments later, a squad car pulled up in front of the community center, where Karen stood with her arms crossed, waiting. The officer, Officer Daniels, stepped out of the car and approached Karen, his expression unreadable. "Karen? What's going on here?" Officer Daniels asked, his voice calm but firm. "These people are refusing to obey my Hoa rules," Karen replied, her voice laced with irritation. "I've given them fair warning, but they're blatantly ignoring the fines. I want them held accountable." "They're protesting the fines, Karen?" the officer said, looking around at the growing crowd of angry residents. That's not a criminal offense. You can't just call the police every time someone doesn't like a rule. But Karen wasn't backing down. They're breaking the law by not complying with Hoa regulations. If they refuse to pay the fines, I'll be forced to take legal action. We need order. And they're disrupting it. A collective murmur of disbelief ran through the crowd. Sarah stepped forward, her voice rising in anger. You're calling the police over flower colors and tree heights. This is insane. We've done nothing wrong. You've imposed these rules without consulting anyone. I don't care what you think, Karen snapped. Her eyes narrowed. You'll learn to respect the rules, or I'll sue every single one of you. Go ahead. Jake shot back, his voice defiant. We'll see how well your case holds up when we challenge it in court. The tension was palpable as more officers arrived. Standing at the edge of the crowd, Officer Daniels sighed, clearly growing tired of the escalating situation. Karen? You can't just escalate everything. Let's try to talk this through without involving law enforcement every time there's a disagreement. This isn't a criminal matter, it's a civil one. Fine. Karen growled, but her tone suggested she wasn't willing to back down just yet. But if you think you can win this, you're sorely mistaken. As the officer moved to calm the situation, the residents of Crestwood Estates exchanged determined glances. Karen had just made a huge mistake by calling the police. She had turned a small disagreement into a full-blown confrontation. It was clear now, the community wasn't going to let her push them around anymore. The community's patience had been stretched thin. After weeks of tension, heated arguments, and police visits, the residents of Crestwood Estates were more determined than ever to take action. The blatant unfairness of Karen's rules, imposed without proper consultation, without any democratic process, had galvanized them. They knew they had to fight back. Not just for their right to control their own properties, but to restore fairness and transparency to their neighborhood. A small group of residents, Sarah, Jake, Martha, and a few others, began gathering evidence. They meticulously collected emails, letters, and photographs, showing that Karen had never consulted the community before enforcing her new regulations. They even found proof that Karen had selectively fined residents, often targeting those she had personal disagreements with, while letting others off the hook. It was clear that Karen's rules were arbitrary and unfairly enforced. We can do this, Sarah said, looking over the evidence with a determined look in her eyes. This is the proof we need. She's been abusing her position. Let's get a lawyer. Jake replied. It's time to take this to court. The lawsuit was filed. And soon after, the court date arrived. The tension in the community was palpable as the residents gathered at the courthouse. Karen was there, standing confidently in front of her lawyer. But the residents had something she didn't, a united front and irrefutable proof of her misconduct. As the trial unfolded, the evidence mounted against Karen. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had acted in the best interests of the community. But the facts told a different story. The judge listened intently as Sarah and Jake presented their case, detailing how Karen had manipulated the HOA's rules for her personal preferences and had never consulted the residents before enforcing them. In the end, the judge ruled in favor of the residents. Karen was ordered to pay damages for the fines and harassment she had imposed. Furthermore, the court ruled that the rules she had implemented were null and void. She was also required to step down as Hoa president. a position she had abused for far too long. Karen's face went pale as the ruling was read aloud. The crowd in the courthouse erupted in cheers as she slumped in her chair. Defeated. Back in Crestwood Estates, the residents celebrated their hard-earned victory. "We did it," Sarah said with a smile, looking around at her neighbors. "We got our neighborhood back." With Karen gone, the community came together to rewrite the rules. The new regulations were fair, transparent, and, most importantly, created with the input of everyone. No one person could impose their will on the community again. And the residents, now more united than ever, could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Crestwood Estates had been restored to the peaceful, cooperative neighborhood it once was, and the residents learned a valuable lesson in standing up for their rights and the importance of working together.